Hey guys, welcome back to the shop, Curtis Customs. This is episode 2 of the 1970 Ford F100. Phone got hot yesterday and stopped recording, so it's a lot cooler today. So we got the dash harness laid out. We're going to go through, start cutting out all of the unused circuits, and we'll start adding all of our extra circuits for the Dakota Digital, the radio, the air conditioning, and then any extra circuits that we might need in the future before we do a full chassis wire harness. So follow along, subscribe, and we will get to work. So as I'm separating all the wires and stuff, I'm just using a good old-fashioned seam ripper to cut through all of the old wiring loom and electrical tape that somebody previously put on. It does pretty good. Better than a razor blade and cutting and chafing all the wires. And then I'm also going along and checking the wires that are remaining in the harness, doing continuity checks from end to end to make sure that all the wiring that I'm leaving in is still good and reading the proper continuity from end to end of where it's going. We'll be removing the fusible link that they had in for the ignition because we are now running fuel injection, and with a CDI box we do not need a resistant wire for the ignition to lower the voltage from 12 volts down to 8 or 9. So that's a safety in there so you don't burn up coils, but now we don't need that anymore. Like this purple wire that from the factory, so long they just bunched it back up and then taped it in, so we'll be getting rid of all this stuff. We'll be adding in a wire. Wire I'm splicing now is the wire from the light switch that went up to the indicator light in the column that ties into the wire for the heater control. So we will add in a wire instead of going into the light switch. We'll add a wire, run it over to the Dakotas, so when you turn your light switch on, or running lights, it'll turn on the Dakota Digital lights. I always put the heat shrink on the wrong side. Normally I crimp it before I realize I have to do it again. So all the old steering column wiring out. We got brake switch, turn signal flasher. So we got brown, this was ignition. This was the old oil pressure, ignition, hot, and water temperature wires. Don't need now because of the Dakota. So this is the ignition wire. that goes to the starter solenoid. So now we'll extend it and we will run it to our key side of the ignition switch. Someone slipped heat shrink over it without heating it. So then along with this connection, we're going to run another red wire all the way out to the end to go into the engine compartment to our fuse box. And then that's where we're going to put all our extra relays and circuits so nothing is flooding the inside of the cab of the truck. We'll have 12 powers and grounds fusible ends for anything that we add. So then there's not fuses all over the truck. So we'll have a 12 for accessory, and then we'll have another 6 for the Holly sniper. That way all the fuses are in one spot. Then you're not hunting where a fuse is underneath the dash, underneath the seat. All right, so another day's gone by. Had to deliver a vehicle, but we have all of our added circuits in. We have added in our key on, power, and lights for the Dakota digital display and the gauges. Got a bunch of unused wires removed out of here. Got some of the switches already taped up, but then we added in our circuits for our power and ground for our driver window. And then we also have our battery voltage for our radio. So we got 12 volt battery, we got keyed switch, and then also we have a separate system for 12 volt power for the air conditioning along with keyed switch too, and then the associated grounds. Then we also have wires for our power and ground for our passenger side power wire. And then we will be adding in our weather pack connection for the harness that we cut that went through the firewall. And then these are all of the circuits that are going to be running through the firewall. We'll do a knockout tool and add a grommet. I'll show all that. But then these will be going to our relays and our fuses with the fuse block protection here. So this will be mounted next to the battery, and then we'll have a positive 4 gauge and then a positive 12 gauge. So everything will be running directly to the power positive and negative. So then we're not losing anything through faulty grounds, through bad body bushings or mounts or anything like that. So everything will be directly from the battery. So what we'll do is I'll get it all wrapped, and then we'll loom it, and then we'll final tape it again, and then we'll get it put in. And then the footage I got lost from the side-by-side comparison when I took out the steering column for the new I Did It column. So then the new column is all painted, so before it goes in, I'll redo the side-by-side and see the quality difference. So stay tuned and we'll get it wrapped up. All Alright guys, it's the next day. We started that other video. It happened to be Friday when the big monsoon came through Phoenix, and 10 minutes in, lost power, bunch of rain. Now we're back on it. Got the under dash wire harness for the 1970 F100 all first taped up. Everything's where it needs to be. Now we're gonna go through and add all of our split loom. We're gonna loom everything. We got different sizes, and then we'll get it all final taped up, and then we'll get it put back into the truck. I got sizes from 1/4 inch, 1/8 inch, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, and I just get it all from Del City online. You get a big enough order together, and they give you a good deal on the shipping. So we'll go through and we'll run through and get it all done and covered up and get it back going again. Go through and test each side. That's going to be good. So we know this is going to be good all the way from right here. So we'll start that, run it all, get our measurements. Probably get to about right there. Again, the white stripe on it signifies high heat. Underneath the dash, it really doesn't matter, but it's thicker and more heat tolerant. It works really well in the engine compartment. Get all slack out. There we go. I normally order this stuff in 100-foot rolls, and I get about 300 feet of each size. That normally lasts about 3 or 4 vehicles, depending on if you're doing full chassis wiring or if you're just doing touch-up stuff like certain builds got going on. Some people just tape, but I find never know stalling. If you do get a rodent or something in that starts chewing on something, you got 3 layers that it's got to go through before it wreaks any havoc. Also, if there's any sharp edges from people drilling or just metal that's chafed, moving everything around, nothing's gonna short out or ground out. So I went through and taped it all end to end. Get this loom in here, and I'll do a final tape over everything, and then it'll be ready to install. Probably saying, but that's all right. Hopefully this fan's not making a wind. Microphone too windy. And like I said, I lost the footage of the original side-by-side steering column from the old one to the new I did it. But it's all painted, and we'll do a side-by-side comparison and show the old rag joint we took out and the new one that's going in. The only thing we're not wiring up yet or shortening up is all this extra stuff that goes into the new column. So we'll be making that separate, and we'll be able to do that inside the truck. It's big man channel. As I peel back a little bit on each of the leg where a plug or a switch or something is, I'll do 1 or 2 wraps. Just so I tape the end of it so it's not going to slip. And then I'll go from the switch up into the main harness on every one, so then the final wrap encases everything, so then it stays sealed. This is where you get killer arthritis, but this is the final touch that makes wiring look good. And I don't ever tear the tape. I always cut it, because whenever you go to pull on it, it stretches it out, and then it runs and bunches up, and then when you go to tape over it, it just looks fugly. And the big thing is, for me, is no matter what I do, it's always got to make it look like somebody paid good money to have it done, so it looks professional every time. I'll just show a couple of these, and then we'll flash back to having it all done before it goes in the truck. Hopefully it's not picking up too much wind noise. All right, I'll run through, do the rest, and bring you back. All right, so we're back. Got it all wrapped, loom, final tape over. Doing all that really makes it more rigid and a lot less bendy, a lot less likely for wires to get bound up, creased up, and pinched, and all that other jazz. So then here's the whip that's gonna go through the firewall. We'll do a grommet about right here with a knockout tool. I'll show all that for the installation. And then I'll do a side-by-side comparison of the new and old steering column with the rag joint before we get it put in. All right, so we're back with the side-by-side comparison of the old column with the new I Did It tilt column. So had an old chrome Lacara with a gray faded wrap, going with all black with black leather wrap Lacara steering wheel. Then old steering column, old Prindle, old turn signal and flasher with neutral safety switch and reverse switch. So it all gets the modern update and comes with pigtail and all the wiring. More modern reverse and neutral safety switch. And then we got a new rag joint to go into the gearbox, because the other one, well, was shot, probably original to the truck. So we got chrome shifter, and then we got chrome turn signal and chrome tilt lever that'll go on once everything's installed. We're still waiting on a rubber boot that comes in that mounts to the firewall like this guy does, but this is a side-by-side comparison. This was a paintable steel that we did semi-gloss, so it should accent the inside of the truck real well.